I don't know if you heard, but there's a lot of stuff going on in West Africa. And a lot of people are saying, well, why do we have to pay attention to that? It's
Niger
Africa,
and Burkina
Faso, the whole 9 yards.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Why do you think we should pay attention to that? Why is that important?
Well, okay. For one reason, our ally, our NATO ally, France, gets their uranium from that area.
Their diamonds.
And we get our cobalt for our electric cars.
And our nickel.
A lot of important stuff. And that's why democracy is so important there. Mm-hmm. That they're fairly elected leaders who are friendly to the West remain in place and aren't overthrown by these people, frankly, asking like disgruntled boys from boy bands, finding out their contract wasn't that good.
Yes. I think you hit it on the nose there, too. That's one reason. Another reason is this can spin out of control. Remember, boys and girls, when you went to school and you learned about history and you learned about World War I and World War II, it just started off with two countries that had like historical beef with each other. And, you know, then the Archduke Franz Ferdinand was shot.
Also World War III, if it happens, coming out of here.
Exactly. Yeah. From this country, from that country, from that. And like Kurt said, all these minerals we get from there, you think the West is just going to give in to letting their cobalt and their nickel and uranium and their diamonds and their oil be controlled by the country that they come from?
Do you know these
no way, Kurt.
These ideas were being directly said in a Call of Duty game from like years ago.
Because they program
rare earth minerals. That's what the next war is going to be. And it was a whole... And that's... dude, it's amazing. I never thought Africa, though, because all the Bible beaters that I knew born agains and they got revelation prophecies that where they're like the king of the north, that none of them thought it was going to be Africa. That's what I find really, really exciting.
Well, they missed the mark on that one because there's so many minerals that are in Africa right now that, according to, you know, American foreign policy by way of their corporations, the fascist bastards, are up for grabs. No, those minerals don't belong to the African nations. They belong to us. How dare they put that cobalt under there? Our cobalt.
Well, if they sign a contract, if they sign a fair contract, there's a thing called the rule of law and the world order.
And to sign that fair contract, what they do is they get all these puppet governments to go along and they put them in place, and therefore they get their friendly relationship with the United States. Now we have this.
They have our same government system.
No, we in fact put their governments in to the behest of our government, is what I'm saying. In other words, we control their government, so they're, you know. But ECOWAS is this like kind of Western puppetized group of African Western states that have formed together, and they're going to follow the rules and the instructions of the United States. The head of now ECOWAS is the Nigerian president, who they just had an election that was very questioned. But don't worry.
Hashtag bring back our girls.
Yes. Stacey Abrams was over there looking at it and observing. Take a look. This is a basic kind of like ECOWAS for dummies, so you get an understanding of what's going on. I'm going to play two videos so you can see the danger and the significance of the region of what's going on, so that you might be able to express your voice that maybe World War III is not the best way to go.
ECOWAS is an economic community of West African states. Most of the head of states of ECOWAS are contested leaders in their own country. And what is really interesting is that the new president of ECOWAS is also the new president of Nigeria, Bola Tinubu. And Bola Tinubu is in the pocket of the imperialists. He's in the pocket of the US.
The United States congratulates the people of Nigeria, President-elect Tinubu, and all political leaders following the declaration by Nigeria's Independent National Electoral Commission, or INEC, on the results of the February 25th presidential election.
By the way, if you hear an American official say that, even if it is Ned Price or Antony Blinken or John Sullivan, or is it Jake Sullivan? I don't even know which one. Jake the Snake Sullivan, John Sullivan, whichever one it is, if it's one of those things, usually it's a Fugazi election that was rigged up to the nines by the United States. And by the way, this is African Stream. If you haven't gone on African Stream, go on their Twitter, go on their Instagram, stay up to date when it comes to these issues. This is a great video right here. When he was saying those things, Ned Price, I mean, you had to yourself even go like, you know, it's full of, Ned Price,
he's never National Electoral Commission,
you know, it's full of shit.
Or INEC, on the results of the February 25th presidential election.
ECOWAS is also a prototype of those organizations that neglect the people. They never care for the people. They always care for power. What is really important is saving power, is staying in power, is using power against the people. Concerning Mali, they decide to put sanctions on the Mali people, and those sanctions were not productive. So ECOWAS is not working with the people. And this is why there are many organizations which are calling for People's West African Organization. So today, one of the issues is about the future of ECOWAS. Will this organization survive to the Niger crisis? I think it will be really difficult for ECOWAS to keep as it is today after the Niger crisis. There is a strong need for a new political vision and dimension of ECOWAS. And this is why I think that we must move out of this kind of head of states organization to a more people's organization. Like I said, Bola Tinubu is in the pocket of the Western countries. And the difficulty is that the Western countries are calling for war. They want blood. They want African blood. They want Africans killing other Africans.
That's something important. I want to stop right there too as well, because this is what they're doing. And this is what I talk about all the time. When it comes to these coups or this resource extraction, we talk about the resources extraction. That's what we want. We want our Western companies to go into these countries, whether it be Latin America or Africa, and control the resources. Banana Republic, remember the whole Guatemalan situation where we removed that president because they had nationalized their fruit, and they said, no. Chiquita and Dole at the time, which was UFC.
We're way past that evil into like the music industry and bad neighborhoods finding rappers level of exploitation and death.
Yes. But this here, the tactic they use, Kurt, and this is something I learned when I went down to Latin America and you talk to the people, they're talking about neighbors killing neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
The people are split. They're divided. Funded by all these crazy groups like USAID or the NED, which are NGOs that get money from the government to go and thrust regime change war. And it's a deadly, disgusting thing.
Wait.
It's all about splitting the people the same way it is about splitting the people here.
I was going to say that, so they're even more like us than I thought?
Yes.
Because everybody bickering about nonsense.
Kurt, what they practice abroad, they will eventually bring home and use on us.
I wonder what their Bud Light Dylan Mulvaney can is of Africa that will cause civil war.
And this situation is not acceptable. And this is why we must oppose war.
So it's ECOWAS, which is the Western Alliance of Western Africa, American puppetry, so we can go in there, control their resources, about resource extraction. It's also about thrusting our monetary system on there, giving them ridiculous loans, which have to be paid back on the back of the workers.
Yeah.
That's another thing, making sure that our dollar is more dominant throughout the whole culture.
You know what this maniac, this madman Putin did, where he just forgave a bunch of debt
in
that Africa had?
Yes.
Because he doesn't respect rule of law?
Yes. And people were pissed about that. And why did he do that? To better relations. He knew it would be a burden on their back. So he said, we're going to forgive you for these loans. And let's just continue to do business together.
My goodness. Well, that's worse than forgiving college loans.
Ben Rubenstein, friend of the Convo Couch, did this great video over here. That this is a great video that's going to explain exactly what could happen, because ECOWAS has announced that at the behest of the Western governments, they're going to say no to Niger and their coup. How dare you be against democracy? Install your old puppet country. We don't care what the military is doing. It's a military coup, and that's bad, even though the people are standing behind the military coups in Mali and Burkina Faso, in Niger. This is a quick little video by Ben Rubenstein explaining what could happen, how World War III could break out. That's why we have to pay attention to this.
This is bad. ECOWAS has said that they've set a date for the invasion of Niger, while they haven't announced the date for strategic purposes. They've made it clear that they are going to push forward with an attack on their neighbor. This could easily spiral out of control into a region-wide war in West Africa. Right now, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger stand together. If push comes to shove, my personal opinion is that you will see Chad, Guinea, and Algeria standing with Niger, and even Iran and Russia providing some sort of support. Mali and Burkina Faso have already deployed aircraft to come to the defense of Niger. Yet Nigeria, Benin, the Ivory Coast, and Senegal would have the backing of the French and the United States. Millions of people could be dragged into this conflict. The problem is this. If regional war escalates, it will be the perfect pretext for a French invasion of West Africa, with funding from the United States.
Oh, great.
Every day we are getting closer to a third world war. Let's not forget the infamous words of the former French President Jacques Chirac, who said, without Africa, France would become a third world power. France cannot afford to let their neo-colonies liberate themselves without a fight. If you found this video interesting...
He said that?
Yeah. He said that a long time ago. That was the previous president too. Pretty much saying that they are so dependent on those resources that they get from Africa that they need to keep them. You know, they find justification.
That's very interesting because when you hear especially in Europe, all the immigration controversy.
Yeah.
And you're like, why do they keep letting all these immigrants in? Because we need to be entangled with them forever to take their stuff in their country.
Yes.
And it's only fair we allow your citizens to flee to our country and take jobs away from our poor people. Yeah. Because we're going to be in your country forever, so you might as well have a lot of family connected. We do with India.
Well, that what somebody said. My good friend Don DeBar would say that I can't understand because we've been down to these countries in Latin America. We're in there taking their stuff. So why would we get mad when they show up on our doorstep looking for their shit?
Well, I think a lot of the power elite here feel that way. They're like, well, we got to let them come. We screwed their whole countries up, and let them live not by you.
I think the power elite are cool with it because then they get really, really cheap labor.
Yes,
They're taking advantage of that.
It's a win-win. You get people that are grateful for a job, not like you ingrates that want health care. You J-Law style ingrates.
J-Law. So this gets even deeper over here because it says Algeria refuses French overflight from Niger military operation. So we talked about this, and he said, if I had to guess, because you never know at the end of the day, because we never knew what happened in World War I or World War II, that these countries would align. Well, it shows right here. Algeria has a history right now, and they do not like the French. They do not like the French at all. Algeria has refused. And that's why they were. I think they were. I can't remember what it was. Natural gas, I believe, in Algeria, and they pretty much cut the French off, and they went to the Italians and sold it to them at a discount instead.
Good.
This is a couple years ago. So then the French were yelling at the Italians, like, "What are you doing? That's our client state." And they were like, we're getting cheap energy from them." Algeria has refused a French request to fly over its airspace for military operations in Niger. A state radio said late on Monday. Algeria opposes any foreign military action in Niger and favors the diplomacy to restore constitutional order, state radio added. France has about 1,500 troops in Niger that were stationed there before last month's coup. It is not clear what military operation Algeria was referring to, but France has not said it would intervene militarily to overturn the military takeover. And this is perfect over here. I don't know if you can see it, so I got it highlighted. So he was talking, this is what Ben was talking about. You got Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. They're all together. There are three right there. They're close together, right? They're all locked right there. Now, Algeria, if they support right there and Chad supports right there, you can see the block. And this means a lot if there is...
Do you notice that's around Libya, is it not? The country
Libya is right here.
So when France, with our help, killed Gaddafi and destabilized the entire area and made their lives a lot harder with way more radical Islamic terrorism they didn't have before us, that's why they're not going to be our... that's why I'm so confused. Like, how much is like... You didn't plan out 5 seconds ahead of time. You just thought, oh, then I'll put it into chaos. Good. We'll always come out on top of whatever the chaos. We might not on this one.
Well, the chaos means cheap resource extraction. If the country's in chaos, you can get those minerals out of there for pennies on the dollar. When I always talk about the Congo, it was all about the cobalt there. And they literally turned, once again, citizens against each other, the citizens killing citizens, neighbors killing neighbors, the same way they divide us over here. They do that over there, okay? And when they do that, then you can extract those resources for pennies on the dollars. So I figured that's what they could do in Libya. But this is a different situation, Kurt. Look at this. This is a block right now. This is a block. And Algeria's got a lot of power right now.
Well, ECOWAS is coming.
And ECOWAS, some of these other countries over here, they're just puppet governments.
Wait, so now that we're wrapping up because Ukraine is losing, as we knew that
this is our new wars.
So this is our new one from when we got to pull out embarrassingly out of Ukraine. We're going to get this one going.
Yep.
I think it's going to be a tall order because
You're going to see some U.S. servicemen killed over there or something
Dude,
like that.
This is like Uyghur. As much as they talk about like Uyghurs in China.
Yeah.
Do you know how many friends that live here that are supposedly know some things?
Yeah.
That they don't even know what a Uyghur is to even argue about whether it's how they say, because they're not comfortable saying the word Uyghur.
Dude,
Niger, this couldn't have come with a worse named country. Because dude, I'm not making a joke. I promise you, a bunch of liberals that are gung-ho with Ukraine that just figured out it's not the Ukraine, they're going to have built into them weird feelings about saying Niger. And it's
Nigerians?
Dude, there's all kinds of problems built in beyond the real death that all these idiots don't know about. This is going to be like, tragic, but also hilarious on the U.S. propaganda end.
So France denies the report. It asked Algeria to use its airspace for a Niger operation. So
Dude,
they're denying
I know
it.
people at work in entertainment that wouldn't even want to say that sentence. Have to read that off a page.
It says it denies making any request for a flyover of the Algerian territory.
I don't feel comfortable saying a Niger operation. That's the idiots you're talking about. They're going to have masks on, and they're going to not want to say Niger.
They'll make up another term for it. Well, listen. One of the things that the people have been talking about, remember the whole Wagner situation in Russia?
Yes.
So Wagner has been known to be inside of Africa.
Somebody just texted me that guy was killed, Prigozhin.
Well, I'm going to get to that right now.
I'm sorry.
Well, it's not confirmed.
Oh.
So with all this going on, and we had talked about, the reason why it can spin out of control is that all these countries that are highlighted here have the backing from Russia and China.
Yeah, China's made a lot of friends there, haven't they?
A lot of friends, because they come in with their checkbook. They don't come in with their military bases. There's been surrounding of Niger of French military bases. There's been troops pulled out of U.S. troops. We have drone bases there, the whole 9 yards. This thing can get really, really hairy over here.
Hey, come see us on Live on Tour. We're doing a show in New York City, Pottstown, Pennsylvania, Stamford, Connecticut, Toledo, Rochester, Michigan. That's just outside of Detroit. St. Louis, Tampa, Florida, Boca Raton, Florida, and Orlando, Florida. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.